The Fool Who Lost His Queen. Imagine a man who risks everything, trading the brilliant diamond he possesses for a cheap imitation, and in doing so, loses the very queen of his life. This is the story of Henry Archer, who coldly discarded Sophia Rivers while she carried his child, only to chase after a younger, dazzling model. He thought he had upgraded his life. He couldn't stop bragging, rubbing his pride into his ex-wife's wound. But what happens when that self-absorbed man is forced to sit in the front row, witnessing the spectacular and blinding return of the woman he despised? While Henry was busy strutting with his cheap replica in Mayfair, he had no idea that Sophia, the single mother quietly rebuilding her life in Chelsea, was being secretly courted and cherished by one of the world's most reclusive and powerful billionaires, Julian Cross. Prepare for an epic revenge, where the prestigious red carpet of the grand charity gala at the Royal Opera House is not just a fashion runway, but a decisive battlefield. Chapter 1. The Collector and His Trophy. London, UK. Henry Archer was a man who collected beautiful things. His penthouse in the heart of Mayfair was a testament to his exquisite taste, albeit a bit soulless. Polished chrome and white leather furniture sat atop a vast expanse of imported Italian marble. Abstract art by trendy, up-and-coming artists adorned the walls, each piece a calculated investment. His watch was a Patek Philippe, his suits were exclusively Tom Ford, and his car, a sleek black Aston Martin DB11, purred with the promise of power and prestige. And then there was Daniela, his most recent and prized acquisition. Daniela Vance was, in Henry's own grandiose words, a true movie star. With her cascade of jet black hair, seductive almond eyes, and a figure that seemed sculpted by the gods, she was the type of woman who drew stares wherever she went. A 24-year-old aspiring actress and Instagram model with a following of moderately impressed bots and thirsty men, she was the perfect accessory for a man like Henry. He paraded her through the city's most exclusive restaurants, a smirk permanently etched on his face, basking in the envious glances of other men. "Look at her," he would tell his friends, his voice a possessive whisper, as Daniela posed for a selfie at their table at Amazon Eco. "She has that Sophia Loren vibe, doesn't she? Classic beauty. You don't find that anymore." His friends, a chorus of sycophants benefiting from his generosity, nodded enthusiastically. What Henry conveniently omitted from his triumphant narrative was the woman he had so recently discarded to make room for his new movie star, his wife of 5 years, Sophia, who was pregnant with his son. Sophia would soon be Sophia Rivers again. She was the antithesis of Daniela. Where Daniela was a dazzling firework, Sophia was a quiet, steady flame. She possessed a delicate beauty, with honey blonde hair often worn in a simple, elegant bun, and intelligent, kind eyes that seemed to see through the walls of Henry's carefully constructed facade. She was a talented landscape architect, a woman who found beauty in the natural world, not in fleeting trends of fashion and fame. She had been the stabilizing force in Henry's life, the one who supported him when he was just a struggling entrepreneur with a dream. She had been his partner in every sense of the word, and he had repaid her loyalty with a betrayal so profound it had shattered her world. The day he left her was branded into her memory like a scar. She was 6 months pregnant, her body changing in ways that were both miraculous and terrifying. She had been planning the nursery, a room filled with light and love, a sanctuary for the child they had both wanted so much. He had returned home from a business trip to Ibiza, his face a mask of cold indifference. He told her, with the same emotion as a man discussing a failed business deal, that he was in love with someone else, someone younger, someone more exciting, someone who didn't have stretch marks or morning sickness. "I need to be with someone who inspires me, Liv," he had said, the casual shortening of her name a cruel twist of the knife. "Someone who makes me feel alive." His bags were already packed. Her world, once a vibrant landscape of shared dream and future hopes, had been reduced to a barren wasteland in the space of a single heartless conversation. The divorce had been fast and brutal. Henry, always the pragmatist, had offered her a generous settlement, a golden cage to keep her quiet and out of his glamorous new life. He kept the Mayfair penthouse, of course. Sophia took the money and retreated to a quiet, tree-lined street in Chelsea, to a house she had once dreamed of renovating with him. Now, she would do it alone. But Henry couldn't just leave her alone. He seemed to derive a perverse pleasure from flaunting his new life in her face. He posted a relentless stream of photos of him and Daniela on Instagram, their lives a curated montage of private jets, exotic vacations, and champagne parties. He tagged her in the posts, a digital slap in the face. He even had the audacity to send her a Christmas card, featuring a professional photo of him and Daniela in matching cashmere sweaters, smiling blankly in front of a crackling fire at a ski chalet in Sierra Nevada. On the back, in his neat, arrogant handwriting, he had written, "Wishing you a Merry Christmas. Hope you are doing well." Sophia had thrown the card into the fireplace, watching the flames consume their smug, perfect faces. But the pain remained, a dull, persistent ache in her chest. She carried his son, a constant, living reminder of his betrayal. And he was living a life of consequence-free bliss with a woman who was little more than a child. Her friends, a fiercely protective circle of women who had known her since university, were incandescent with rage. "He's a monster, Liv," her best friend Chloe had said one afternoon, her voice trembling with anger. "A soulless narcissist. How can you be so calm?" But Sophia wasn't calm. She was drowning. The joy she should have been feeling for her impending motherhood was tainted by the bitterness of her heartbreak. She sat in the half-finished nursery, surrounded by boxes of unassembled furniture and untouched baby clothes, and cried until she had no tears left. She felt like a ghost in her own life, a silent observer of her own slow-motion collapse. Interaction question. Have you ever felt so overwhelmed by grief that life seems to have stopped? We would love to hear your story in the comments below. Chapter 2, The Silent Triumph. Meanwhile, Henry was totally oblivious to the depth of her despair. Or perhaps he was aware and simply didn't care. His world was a bubble of self-complacency, and Sophia was a distant, unpleasant memory he could easily discard. He was too busy curating his image as the man who had it all. He had even started a blog, a pretentious and self-aggrandizing platform where he pontificated on everything from investment strategies to the art of living a bespoke life. He wrote a post titled "Leveling Up: Why I Chose a Life of Authenticity and Passion," which was a thinly veiled justification for leaving Sophia. He didn't mention her by name, of course. He simply referred to his previous chapter as a time of stagnation and compromise. He wrote about the importance of surrounding oneself with vibrant and inspiring people, and anyone who knew him knew he was talking about Daniela. The post went viral in his small, privileged circle. People whispered about it at dinner parties, their eyes full of a mix of pity and morbid curiosity. Sophia's name was on everyone's lips. The wronged woman, the discarded wife. She felt the weight of their stares, the sting of their pity, every time she left her house. Henry, on the other hand, wallowed in the attention. He saw himself as a nonconformist, a man who had dared to break free from the suffocating confines of a conventional life. He was a pioneer of self-realization, a guru of self-actualization. He was also a first-class fool, and his fall was destined to be as spectacular as his rise. But for now, he was on top of the world. his movie star girlfriend on his arm, the city at his feet. He had no idea that the woman he had so carelessly discarded was about to rewrite her own story, and that her return would be more dazzling than he could ever have imagined. The seeds of his humiliation were being sown in the quiet, tree-lined streets of Chelsea, in the heart of a woman who was slowly and painstakingly rebuilding the pieces of her shattered life. And when she was whole again, she would be a force to be reckoned with. Henry Archer, the man who thought he had everything, was about to lose the only thing he had never truly valued: his dignity. The first few months after Henry left were a blur of pain and hormones. Sophia moved through her days in a fog of grief, her pregnancy a bittersweet reminder of a future that had been stolen from her. She woke in the middle of the night, her hand instinctively seeking the empty space in the bed beside her, and the reality of her loneliness hit her with the force of a physical blow. The house, which she had once envisioned as a warm and welcoming family home, felt cavernous and cold, its silence amplifying her solitude. Her friends, Chloe and another close friend, Jessica, a sharp-minded lawyer who had handled her divorce with fierce tenacity, formed a protective cocoon around her. They appeared at her door armed with tubs of ice cream, gossip magazines, and a bottomless well of righteous indignation on her behalf. They listened to her cry, rant against Henry's cruelty, and pushed her gently but firmly toward the future. "You can't let him win, Liv," Jessica had said one afternoon, her voice firm as she watched Sophia pick listlessly at a salad. "And right now, by letting yourself be consumed like this, you are letting him win. You have to prove it to him. And more importantly, you have to prove it to yourself, that your life didn't end when he walked out that door." Jessica's words, though harsh, were a necessary jolt. Sophia knew she was right. She couldn't let her grief consume her. Not when she had a new life growing inside her, a life that deserved a happy and healthy mother. That night, she made a decision. She would not be a victim. She would be a survivor. The next morning, she woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. She started with the nursery. She unpacked the boxes, assembled the crib, and painted the walls a soft, sunny yellow. She hung a mobile of delicate, hand-carved wooden animals above the crib. And as she watched them spin in the gentle morning breeze, a glimmer of hope sparked within her. This room wasn't a monument to her loss. It was a promise of a new beginning. She threw herself into her work, channeling her pain and anger into creativity. As a landscape architect, she had always found solace in the natural world, in the patient and resilient beauty of plants and trees. She accepted a new project, a commission to design a rooftop garden for a new luxury hotel, the VP Plaza España design, in central Madrid, or perhaps London's The Ned. The project was ambitious and demanding, and it was exactly what she needed. She spent her days studying blueprints, drawing designs, and searching for rare and exotic plants. The work was a balm for her wounded soul, a tangible way to create beauty in a world that had suddenly turned ugly. It was during a visit to a specialized nursery on the outskirts of London that her life took an unexpected turn. She was looking for a particular variety of Japanese maple, a rare Yoroi cultivar with delicate, lace-like leaves. The nursery owner, a gruff but knowledgeable man named Mr. Hernandez, told her he had sold the last one to a private collector. "A true plant enthusiast, this one," Mr. Hernandez had said in a gravelly murmur. "He buys all my best stock, lives on a large estate in the Cotswolds. A real recluse, they say. His name is Julian Cross." The name meant nothing to Sophia. She felt disappointed, but thanked Mr. Hernandez and was about to leave when a sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up to the nursery. A tall, impeccably dressed man with silver hair and piercing blue eyes stepped out of the car. He exuded an aura of quiet authority, a man used to being in control of his surroundings. Mr. Hernandez's face lit up. "Well, speak of the devil," he muttered to Sophia. "That's him. That's Mr. Cross." Julian Cross heard him, and a faint amused smile tugged at his lips. He walked toward them, his gaze falling on Sophia. There was an intensity in his eyes that made her feel both seen and a little nervous. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything," he said. His voice was a deep, cultivated baritone that sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. "Not at all, Mr. Cross," said Mr. Hernandez jovially. "This young lady was asking about your Japanese maple." Julian Cross's gaze returned to Sophia, a glint of curiosity in his eyes. "My Japanese maple?" "Yes," she said, her tone more confident than she felt. "The Acer palmatum yoroi. I was hoping to use it in a project I'm designing." Julian Cross's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Are you a landscape architect?" "Yes," she said. "Sophia Rivers." He extended a hand. "Julian Cross, it's a pleasure to meet you, Ms. Rivers." His handshake was firm and warm, and he held her gaze for a moment longer than strictly necessary. They talked for over an hour, their conversation flowing as easily as the nearby stream. He was fascinated by her work, and she was captivated by his deep knowledge of botany and his passion for conservation. He told her about his estate in the Cotswolds, a vast property he was slowly rewilding. He spoke with a quiet passion that was a world away from Henry's loud, boastful declarations. Just as they were about to part, he said, "I know it's bold, but I would be fascinated to see your designs for the hotel rooftop, and maybe, just maybe, you'd be interested in seeing my Japanese maple." Sophia felt surprised, but found herself smiling. "I would like that very much, Mr. Cross." "Julian," he corrected gently. Interaction question. What would you do if you were in Sophia's shoes? Would you give Julian a chance? Chapter 3 is Bloom, their first date, as Chloe would later call it with breathless excitement, was a visit to his estate the following weekend. It was a world away from the glitter and glamour of London. A long, winding driveway led through a dense forest of trees to a magnificent stone manor overlooking the rolling hills. The grounds were a breathtaking tapestry of wildflower meadows and meticulously tended gardens. Julian gave her a tour of the property, his love for the land evident in every word he spoke. He showed her his prized Japanese maple, its delicate crimson leaves a burst of vibrant color against the lush green of the surrounding woods. He showed her his greenhouses filled with rare and exotic orchids. He showed her the apiary, where he raised bees, and the organic vegetable garden that supplied his kitchen. They had lunch on a sun-drenched terrace, a simple and delicious meal of freshly baked bread, artisanal cheeses, and salads made with vegetables from his garden. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. She found herself opening up to him in a way she hadn't with anyone in a long time. She told him about her pregnancy, her recent divorce, and her struggle to rebuild her life. She hadn't intended to. The words just poured out of her, a torrent of suppressed pain and vulnerability. He listened patiently, his blue eyes full of a compassion so genuine it made her tear up. He offered no promises or easy answers. He just listened, and in his quiet, attentive presence, she felt a sense of peace that had been missing from her life for so long. When she told him about Henry, about his cruelty and his constant need for validation, a glint of something cold and hard entered his eyes. "He sounds like a very small man," he said, his voice low and steady. Sophia felt startled by the fierce protectiveness in his tone. For the first time since Henry had left, she felt a sense of safety, a feeling of being cherished. As the afternoon came to an end, he walked her back to her car. "I hope this isn't the last time I see you, Sophia," he said, his voice soft. "It won't be," she said, and she knew in her heart it was true. Their relationship blossomed in the following weeks. They met for long walks in Hyde Park, for quiet dinners, in secluded restaurants where they were unlikely to be seen, and for weekends at his estate. He was a perfect gentleman, attentive and kind, treating her with a reverence that was both thrilling and a little terrifying. She learned more about him. He was a tech billionaire, the founder of a revolutionary software company that had changed the way the world communicated. He was notoriously private, a man who shunned the limelight and valued his anonymity. He had been a widower for 10 years. His wife had died in a tragic accident. He had never remarried and had poured all his energy into his work and philanthropic efforts. He was everything Henry was not: kind, humble, and genuinely interested in the world around him. He was a man of substance, a man of quiet strength, and to Sophia's amazement, he was falling in love with her. He never rushed her, never pressured her to give more than she was ready to give. He was patient and understanding, and seemed to instinctively know what she needed. He appeared at her house with her favorite takeout, or sent her a bouquet of her favorite flowers, peonies, with a simple handwritten note that said, "Thinking of you." One night, as they sat in front of the fireplace in his living room, he took her hand. "Sophia," he said, his voice soft but firm. "I know this is fast, and I know you've been through a lot, but I have to tell you how I feel. I'm falling in love with you." Tears gathered in Sophia's eyes. "I'm falling in love with you too, Julian," she whispered. He leaned in and kissed her, a gentle, tender kiss filled with all the unspoken emotions that had been building between them. It was a kiss that promised a future she had never dared to dream of, a future full of love, laughter, and the quiet joy of a shared life. As her due date approached, Julian became her rock. He accompanied her to her prenatal appointments, helped her finish the nursery, and was there holding her hand when she gave birth to a healthy, beautiful baby boy. She named him Leo, a name meaning lion, a symbol of the strength she had found within herself. Chapter 4: The Contrast. Henry, meanwhile, was completely oblivious to the dramatic changes in Sophia's life. He was too immersed in his own world, too busy showing off his movie star girlfriend and his perfect life. He had heard through the grapevine that Sophia had given birth and had sent her a superficial text message. "Congratulations. Let me know what I owe you for child support." He had no idea that Sophia was no longer the broken, lonely woman he had left behind. He had no idea she had found a love deeper and more profound than he could ever comprehend. And he had no idea she was about to make a spectacular entrance into the world on the arm of a man who could buy and sell him 1,000 times over. The stage was set for a showdown, and the red carpet was about to become a battlefield, while Sophia was wrapped in the quiet, authentic joy of new motherhood and blossoming love. Henry was aggressively marketing his own happiness. His life was no longer something to be lived, but a brand to be managed, and he was its most relentless and obnoxious promoter. His Instagram was the primary vehicle for this campaign, a relentless stream of high-gloss, manufactured bliss. Every post was a carefully composed tableau designed to scream effortless success. Henry and Daniela clinking champagne glasses on a private jet to St. Barth's. The caption, "A casual, work hard, play hard." The two of them in matching Fendi ski suits at a chalet in Courchevel, looking artistically disheveled. Daniela posing with a newly acquired and staggeringly expensive Birkin bag on the Pont des Arts in Paris. The zenith of this PR offensive was an 8-page spread in Prestige Living, a glossy magazine whose primary function was to stroke the egos of the nouveau riche. The article, shamelessly titled "The Art of Upgrading," Henry Archer on life, love, and authentic living, was a masterclass in narcissistic revisionist history. In it, Henry, photographed in his stark Mayfair penthouse, pontificated on his personal philosophy, a toxic blend of plagiarized self-help quotes and breathtaking hypocrisy. "Authenticity is everything," he was quoted as saying, his face airbrushed to an uncanny smoothness on the page. "It means having the courage to audit your life, to identify the elements that no longer serve your higher self, and having the strength to eliminate them." The barely veiled cruelty was staggering. He referred to his 5-year marriage not by name, but as his previous chapter, a time of comfortable stagnation and muted colors. He spoke of his new life with Daniela as an explosion of vitality, a return to passion. The accompanying photos were a grotesque parody of intimacy. There was Daniela, wrapped in a sheer silk robe, perched on the edge of their vast, unwrinkled bed, feeding him a single perfect strawberry. There was Henry, staring pensively out of his floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of Macallan in hand, as if contemplating the secrets of the universe rather than his stock portfolio. It was less a portrait of a relationship and more an advertisement for a life no one was actually living. The article landed like a grenade in their old social circle. Sophia's best friend, Chloe, broke the news, calling Sophia in a state of incandescent fury. "You are not going to believe this sanctimonious pig," she shouted down the phone, proceeding to read the most offensive passages aloud. Sophia, who was cradling a fussy, milk-drunk Leo in her arms, listened in silence. The familiar acidic sting of betrayal pricked her, but to her own surprise, it was a distant sensation, a phantom limb of a pain that had mostly healed. When Chloe emailed her the link, she opened it on her laptop. She looked at the shiny, sterile images of the man she had once loved and the girl who had replaced her. They looked like two beautiful, expensive mannequins, their smiles empty, their poses stiff. There was no life in their eyes. She looked down at the warm, snoring baby curled against her chest, his tiny fist gripping her finger, and a wave of profound peace washed over her. She pressed a soft kiss to his head, inhaling his sweet, milky scent. This was real. This was authentic. This warm, messy, unpredictable, deeply joyful reality was something Henry, in his cold, curated world, would never understand. She closed the laptop, not in anger, but with a sudden, overwhelming wave of pity. He wasn't living a life. He was maintaining a facade. And that had to be an exhausting, empty existence. When Julian visited that evening, he found the magazine open on the coffee table. He read the article in silence, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. Sophia watched him, and when he finished, he set it down gently and looked at her, his piercing blue eyes full of a quiet, proustive fire. "He is terrified," Julian said, his voice a low, steady rumble. "Men like that, men who need to shout their happiness from the rooftops, are the ones who have the least of it. It's an act to convince himself, not the world. He is a very small man, Sophia, making a very loud noise to distract from his own emptiness." His words were a balm that extinguished the last embers of her hurt. He didn't just comfort her, he armed her with clarity, a new lens through which to view the man who had broken her heart. Henry wasn't a titan to be feared, but a hollow shell to be pitied. Chapter 5, The Resurrection. In the months that followed, Sophia's world continued to expand, while Henry's, unbeknownst to him, began to shrink. Her rooftop garden project for the new hotel was completed to rave reviews. It was a masterpiece of sustainable design, a lush urban oasis that felt both wild and serene. Her work earned her the prestigious National Landscape Design Award, a huge honor in her field. At the awards ceremony, she walked on stage, her post-pregnancy figure elegant in a simple, well-cut dress, and gave a brief, humble speech, thanking her team and speaking of her belief that creating green spaces in cities was an act of radical hope. The award led to a feature of her own, not in a frivolous lifestyle circular, but in Architectural Digest. The photo shoot was the antithesis of Henry's. The photographer shot with natural light, capturing Sophia in her element, in the sun-drenched living room of her Chelsea home, her hand smudged with charcoal from sketching, or on the finished hotel rooftop, her face lit with a genuine smile as she inspected a flowering vine. The article celebrated her talent, her vision, and her quiet, profound contribution to the beauty of the world. It was a dignified and powerful testament to her resilience and her craft. Her life with Julian deepened into the kind of partnership she had always craved. He fit seamlessly into her world and Leo's. He was a man of immense wealth and influence, yet he found his greatest joy in the simplest things. He would lie on the floor for hours, his deep laugh resonating as he made silly faces at Leo. He learned to distinguish Leo's tired cry from his hungry one. He was there for the first real smile, the first attempt at crawling, the first time Leo rolled over, a moment they celebrated with the same quiet reverence as a major business deal. They were a family forged not by obligation, but by deep, constant, quiet love. Henry, meanwhile, was discovering that a life built on novelty has a very short shelf life. The dazzling excitement of Daniela was fading, revealing an abyss of incompatibility. Her conversations, which he had once found refreshingly simple, now seemed painfully vapid. A looping track of celebrity gossip, brand names, and complaints about her Instagram algorithm. Her entire existence was performative, lived through the lens of her phone. He would try to talk to her about a new venture or an article he had read, and her eyes would glaze over before she interrupted to ask if he thought a particular filter made her look divine. He was living with a beautiful, animated ghost. A strange, corrosive curiosity began to consume him. He started thinking about Sophia constantly. He found her new, private Instagram account. A friend of a friend had let it slip. He created a fake profile to follow her. What he saw was a quiet punch to the gut. Her feed wasn't a performance. It was a diary. It was filled with candid, sun-drenched photos. Leo's impossibly small feet. Sophia laughing, dirt on her cheek from her garden. A close-up of blueprints for a new project. It was a life of substance, a life that felt real. He saw the photo from her awards night, holding the heavy, sleek trophy, looking radiant and completely in her own power. Then, he saw the one that stopped his breath. It was a candid shot, likely taken by a friend. Sophia and a man were sitting on a park bench, sharing a coffee. The man had his arm around her and was looking at her with an expression of pure, unadulterated adoration that sent a wave of hot, possessive anger through Henry. Who the hell was this guy? His fingers flew across the keyboard. He searched her name, the awards, the hotel project. And then he found it. The man in the photo was Julian Cross. A quick, frantic search yielded a handful of Unterschied. Rare articles from Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. Tech visionary, philanthropist, recluse, and a net worth with so many commas it made Henry's considerable wealth look like a rounding error. The blood drained from Henry's face. A cold, sickly dread settled in his stomach. He had left Sophia for an aspiring actress. He had bragged that he had a movie star. And she, quietly, without any fanfare, had ended up with a man who could buy the entire movie studio, its catalog, and the island they filmed on. The sheer cosmic scale of his miscalculation was staggering. He saw himself not as the man who had upgraded, but as the fool who had traded a winning lottery ticket for a handful of magic beans. The final act was set in motion a few weeks later. The grand charity gala at the Royal Opera House, the absolute pinnacle of the social calendar, was approaching. "I'm one of the co-chairs this year," Julian mentioned casually one evening as they cleaned up after dinner. Leo was asleep in his bassinet nearby, and I was hoping my partner would do me the honor of attending with me. Sophia froze, a dish towel in her hand. The idea was terrifying. The cameras, the crowds, the judgment. It was everything she had spent the last year escaping. "Oh, Julian, I don't think I can," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "That world isn't me. I've been so happy being invisible." Julian walked over to her, took the dish towel from her hands, and wrapped her in his arms. He looked directly into her eyes, his gaze steady and reassuring. "I know, and I wouldn't ask if it were just a party," he said softly. "Think of it differently. It's not about going back to his world. It's about you entering yours, on your own terms. I want the world to see the woman I see every day. Not the scorned wife of the tabloids, but the brilliant, strong, beautiful artist who is creating the most incredible life. This isn't a performance, Sophia. It's a coronation. Your coronation." She looked at him, at the absolute faith in his eyes, and felt her fear begin to recede, replaced by a nascent glimmer of excitement. He wasn't asking her to be an accessory. He was asking her to take her crown. "Okay," she exhaled, a slow smile spreading across her face. "Okay, I'll go." The next day, she made a call to a stylist Julian had recommended, a legend known for creating iconic, elegant looks. As she described her vision, something sleek, powerful, and unapologetically hers. She felt a sense of purpose solidify within her. Meanwhile, across town, Henry Archer was pulling every string he could, calling in every favor owed to secure his own tickets to the gala. He finally got them, and he and Daniela immediately began planning their assault on the red carpet, plotting a coordinated look designed to get them noticed. He had no idea. He was a supporting actor in a drama he didn't even know was being written. He was preparing for a party, while Sophia was preparing for a resurrection. Chapter 6. The Celestial Bodies. The night of the grand charity gala at the Royal Opera House was less a party and more a controlled detonation of fame and fashion. It was a sensory assault, a glittering maelstrom on the steps of the theater. The air itself seemed to vibrate, thick with the percussive roar of hundreds of screaming photographers, the frantic clicking of 1,000,000 camera shutters, and the electric buzz of the crowd. Pressed against the barricades, the theme this year, Celestial Bodies, had inspired a parade of ethereal and often extravagant creations, turning the grand staircase into a river of silk, satin, and starlight. It was a night for legends, not amateurs. Into this crucible of judgment stepped Henry and Daniela. Their entrance was as subtle as a car alarm. The rented vintage Rolls-Royce, a monstrous confection of cream and chrome, was so ostentatiously large it struggled to turn onto the carpet, causing a momentary and embarrassing traffic jam. Inside, Henry had spent the final moments giving Daniela a frantic whispered pep talk. "Remember, chin up, look bored, indifferent like you belong here. Don't smile too much, it looks desperate. And for God's sake, let me do the talking if anyone from Vogue approaches." Daniela, who was busy applying a final layer of sticky lip gloss in her phone camera, just nodded. The advice washed over her like a gentle, unheeded wave. "Don't worry, babe." He stepped out, ridiculously dressed in a navy blue velvet Tom Ford tuxedo with satin lapels so wide they looked like a pair of wings. His bow tie, a matching velvet monstrosity, threatened to eclipse his chin. He plastered a smirk on his face, a pathetic imitation of the confident swagger he had seen in movies, and struck a pose. Daniela emerged behind him, a human disco ball stuffed into a silver-sequined dress with a neckline plunging to her navel and a slit rising precariously high on her thigh. The dress was designed not to be admired, but to be noticed. A desperate plea for attention in a room full of confident whispers. They were an assault on the senses, a flashy splurge of new money and limitless ego. They posed together, their movements stiff, choreographed, and utterly devoid of warmth. Henry's hand on Daniela's back felt less like an affectionate caress and more like he was maneuvering a piece of furniture. Daniela cycled through her 3 signature poses: the pout, the sultry over the shoulder, and the smirk with hand on hip. The veteran photographers in the line, men and women who could spot a fake at 100 yards, took their obligatory shots with an air of weary disdain before turning their lenses away, searching for a more authentic moment. A true star. Henry, however, was locked in a fortress of self-delusion. In his mind, the flashes were confirmation of his status. The shouts were for him. He was the man who had it all. The movie star girlfriend. The bespoke life. A ticket to the most exclusive party on the planet. He felt a surge of triumphant joy. He scanned the crowd, his eyes hungry for recognition, for the looks of envy he was sure he was receiving. He was here. He had arrived. He had no idea it was merely the opening act of his own execution. Then, a palpable shift occurred on the carpet. A quiet authority replaced the chaotic energy. The frantic shouting of the press corps died down, replaced by an expectant murmur. A sleek black Bentley Mulsanne, the automotive equivalent of a perfectly tailored tuxedo, pulled up with silent dignity. Its presence was a statement of wealth so deep and so understated that the flashy Rolls-Royce parked in front of it suddenly looked like a cheap toy. The chauffeur opened the door, and Julian Cross stepped out. He didn't need crushed velvet or an oversized bow tie. In a classic Tom Ford tuxedo, exquisitely cut, he radiated a power that was both innate and absolute. He moved with an unhurried grace, a man completely at ease in his own skin and in any environment he chose to occupy. He turned, ignoring the now frenzied press, and extended a hand into the dark interior of the car. And then, Sophia stepped out. It wasn't an entrance. It was a revelation. The world seemed to hold its breath. A collective gasp rippled through the press line, a sound of pure, unadulterated awe. Sophia Romero, a woman the world had forgotten, had just become the undisputed center of the universe. She was a vision from a dream, a celestial Madonna brought to life. Her gown, a custom creation by a revered Parisian couturier, was a masterpiece of midnight blue silk chiffon that seemed to have captured the night sky. The fabric flowed around her, falling in soft, ethereal layers that draped over her post-pregnancy form, not to hide it, but to celebrate it, to frame it as the miracle it was. The neckline was an elegant sweep off the shoulder. A single, magnificent diamond necklace, a gift from Julian, rested against her collarbone, glittering like a captured constellation. Her honey-blonde hair was swept up into an intricate low bun, revealing the elegant line of her neck. Her face, free of the heavy makeup favored by women like Daniela, was luminous. It shone with an inner radiance, a serene and confident joy that no cosmetic could replicate. She wasn't playing a role. She was simply, magnificently herself. Julian's hand rested gently on the small of her back, his touch both protective and proud. He looked at her not as an accessory, but as his queen. They were a tableau of genuine love, of quiet strength, of a power so profound it needed no announcement. The photographers, who had been lethargic just moments ago, erupted. The sound was a deafening, continuous roar of shutters, a desperate, frenzied struggle to capture an image that was already iconic. They weren't just taking a picture, they were witnessing a moment. "Sophia, Sophia, look here! Ms. Rivers, over here! Beautiful!" The shouts were no longer dismissive. They were reverent. Henry stood frozen 20 feet away, the smirk melting off his face like wax. His mind struggled to process the vision before him. It was as if he were looking at a stranger. This radiant, celestial being couldn't be his Sophia, the quiet, sensible woman he had deemed plain and uninspiring. The woman he had discarded was now the most breathtaking creature he had ever seen. His gaze flickered from Sophia's serene presence to Daniela, who was now adjusting her dress, looking annoyed that the attention had shifted. In the brilliant glare of Sophia's authentic light, Daniela's sequins suddenly looked cheap. Her practiced pout looked vulgar. Her overtly sexual dress looked desperate. He had bragged to his friends that he had traded a sedan for a sports car. Now he saw the devastating truth. He had traded a priceless work of art for a cheap, mass-produced replica. The realization was a physical blow. A wave of vertigo washed over him, and the triumphant sounds of the gala faded into a dull roar in his ears. Every cruel word he had ever said to her came back to him, each one a fresh stab of shame. He had called her life stagnation. He had called himself a pioneer of authenticity. The hypocrisy was so vast, so profound, it threatened to swallow him whole. He and Daniela were now completely invisible, two ghosts haunting the edge of the frame. The entire world was focused on Sophia and Julian as they began to ascend the grand staircase. As she passed the spot where Henry stood paralyzed, Sophia's gaze, for a single, crushing fraction of a second, met his. He braced himself for a look of triumph, of anger, of smug satisfaction. He would have welcomed it, but it never came. Instead, her eyes held only a quiet, profound pity. It was a look that didn't say, "I told you so." It said, "I feel so sorry for you." It was the look you give to something broken, something small and sad. And in that single, devastating glance, she stripped him of his anger, his pride, and the last vestiges of his dignity. He wasn't her villain. He wasn't even a footnote. He was simply an object of her compassion. That was the deepest cut of all. Chapter 7. The Final Humiliation. The rest of the night was a masterclass in public humiliation. Inside the theater, while Sophia and Julian were personally greeted by the gala organizers and escorted to the co-chair's table in the heart of the room, Henry and Daniela were directed by an assistant with a clipboard to a table in the hinterlands of the hall. It was social Siberia, populated by reality stars, TikTok influencers, and the forgotten plus ones of more important people. The air at his table was thick with the desperate energy of people who knew they didn't quite belong. From his miserable vantage point, Henry was forced to watch the main event. He saw Sophia seated next to a legendary film director, engrossed in animated conversation, her laughter ringing softly. He saw Julian, in deep discussion with a tech visionary who had changed the world. They weren't just attending the party, they were the party. The final straw for his ego came during the evening speeches. Julian took the stage, and the vast room went silent. He spoke eloquently about the theater, about the power of art. Then his voice softened, and he directed his gaze straight at Sophia. "Art, in its highest form, allows us to see the world anew," he said, his voice resonating with deep emotion. "And tonight, I am here with the greatest artist I have ever known, my partner, Sophia Rivers. She has taught me the true meaning of resilience, grace, and the transformative power of a loving heart. She has taken the broken pieces of a life and is building a masterpiece of strength and beauty, and she is creating the masterpiece of our own family right now." He gestured gently toward her, a look of overwhelming love on his face. "Thank you for inspiring me and the world every day." The room erupted in a wave of heartfelt applause. Sophia's eyes shone with tears as she looked back at him. Her expression, a perfect portrait of love, was everything he needed. Henry felt the applause like a series of physical blows. He had held that love. He had held that masterpiece in his hands, and in his blindness, his stupid arrogance, he had thrown it into the fire. He risked a glance at Daniela. She had missed the entire speech. She was hunched over her phone, her face illuminated by its pale light, furiously editing a selfie she had taken of her dessert plate, her thumb swiping through filters, completely absorbed in her own little digital world. He looked from her vacant expression to the radiant, beloved woman across the room. He had bragged to everyone that his mistress looked like a movie star, but his pregnant ex-wife had become royalty, and he, Henry Archer, the self-proclaimed king of upgrading, was nothing more than a jester in the ruins of his own pathetic kingdom. And there you have it, a story of love, loss, and the most satisfying ultimate revenge. Sophia's journey from a shattered, discarded wife to a radiant, empowered woman on the arm of a man who truly valued her is a powerful reminder that our stories aren't defined by who leaves us, but by the strength we find within ourselves to rewrite our own endings. Henry, in his blind arrogance, thought he could simply upgrade. But he learned the hard way that true worth isn't found in flashy appearances, but in the quiet, unshakable strength of a person's character. What did you think of Sophia's incredible transformation? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more tales of epic comebacks and karmic justice, don't forget to like, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life dramas that will make you cheer. Your support helps us keep bringing you the stories you love. Thanks for watching.